know when you're
Hi people, hola mi gente. So today's session 20. If you're seeing now my background, I lit it as it is. I won't put the Galactic Talk background, but my place where I'm at, that's how it is. So just to let you know, it's 12, a.m. So session 20, we have Feerce Truth-Seeker in the building. All right. So
right.
Feerce Truth-Seeker, welcome, brother. Welcome, mi hermano.
Hey, peace, peace.
It's a pleasure being here. And you know what? With Truth Seeker, we're going to tackle his bio, how he came to the Moorish paradigm. And we're going to tackle, some occult mysteries in terms of history, and probably some mysteries. But the things that truth can disclose. So without further ado, Truth, the ball's in your camp. Tell us, your about, please, and how you came to the Moorish paradigm.
Okay. Um, Greetings, Islam. Um, yeah, basically, I came into, well, before I was involved with the Moorish Science, I was actually, well, I have a background in with the Garveyites, um, and at the same time, because I was born knowing my indigenous ancestry. Um, so at the time when I was with the Garveyites, I was also doing studies on my indigenous culture and stuff like that, heritage, kind of following up on information that I got from my grandparents and things like that. Um, so at one point I started studying shamanism, American Indian shamanism. I was an apprentice to a shaman, okay? And I would say basically the way that I got into it was, I would say that really the ancestors were really guiding me along my path, along the different avenues that I was taking in terms of knowledge and things of that nature. Um, I was taking martial arts at one point, and this is before I got on the shamanic path. My martial arts instructor came to me one day and he said, "Oh, I have that information about the shaman for you." And I said, "Really? Um, I didn't ask you about any information about a shaman." And what was interesting is that the way that I found what he said interesting is because I was reading this book. I was reading this book at the time. Okay. I don't know if you can see that see this book in your.
Sure. Could you spell out the title, please? I'm saying it, but just for the people.
Okay. Yes. Shamanism and the mystery lines, ley lines, spirit paths, shape shifting, and out of body travel. Okay. And so around the same time that he asked me that, he said, "I have that information for you about the shamanism." And so I found that very, I said, "I didn't ask you anything about a shaman." So I said, "Hey, but I'll take the information, you know?" And so I followed up. I made a phone call and I scheduled an appointment. And from that point on, I was, doing an apprenticeship to a shaman, learning Native American shamanism. Okay. Um, and so during that time, I was very heavy studying indigenous language, indigenous culture, things of that nature, going to powwows, stuff like that. And so what happens is, I became, very active, doing things in the community, putting on lectures and things of that nature, dealing with indigenous heritage. What was real funny though is one time we threw a lecture at this place in Brooklyn called the Universal Temple of Thoughts. It was a metaphysical temple, and the bishop there, he was a heavy metaphysician, and he was letting us utilize his. We were studying under him, and also he was letting. It was a group of young people, around my age at the time, and he was letting us utilize this because he had a lot of space, many floors, and he taught out of the place, but he had space that he wanted to rent out to the community. And so we were helping him clean out the space and things of that nature. So we started having a lecture series there. And so one time we did something dedicated to Indigenous American shamans. Okay. And we invited people there from the indigenous community. And also a lot of Moors came. Okay. And so at that time, I was familiar with the Moors, but I didn't have a whole lot of information about the Moors, because when I started hearing Moors talk, I didn't agree with a lot of what they were saying. So, I was like, oh, these Moors are crazy, and so, they came and they were speaking and they were dropping a lot of science, we had one sister from the indigenous community that was speaking at that particular lecture. And what was so funny is that the bishop who owned the temple, his brother could see. He was a seer, so he could see spirits and things like that. And so after the program was over, he came to me and some of the other younger cats that was with us in the group. And he said, brother, he came to me, he said, brother, I just wanted to tell you that you brothers brought down, that's how he talked. He had a very whispery voice. Say, brother, I just wanted to tell you, you guys brought down some heavy, heavy ancestral spirits. He said, I could see them. And then so he looks at me and he says, and those spirits, those Native American spirits that you brought down, he say, they were black. He used the term black, because that's the term that they're familiar with, obviously. And so and then I said, oh, okay. And he said, no. He said, listen to me. He said, no, those Indians were black. And y'all brought down those ancestral spirits. And so I was just, taking it in. And so around that same time, I run into brother Phil Valentine.
Mm-hmm. So
bro,
shout out to him, because he did brought a lot of influences to a lot of generations. So
yes, he did.
Phil Valentine, yeah. Go
yes,
ahead.
he did. And so he had this was at a Kwanzaa event. Every year they used to have a Kwanzaa event at Boys and Girls High School in Brooklyn. And so he was giving out flyers because he used to do these juice fasts and stuff like that, with people that was involved with his temple and things like that. And so he walks up to me and he gives me a flyer. He says, hey, brother, and he says, come down and, he say, we're doing like a 21-day fast, I think it was 21. It was, I know it was something like that, 21 or 30 or something. He starts talking to me about health and wellness. And then he starts talking about, he started, dropping a little bit of science that the Moors talk about. He says, a lot of people say, they think that our solution is to go back to Africa, and he said, but that's not really a solution. It's dropping a lot of what the Moors are saying about our people being here and this, that, and the other. And he said, come out to come out to check us out, and say we're going to have a gathering of the masters, all kind of people, metaphysicians and stuff like that are coming out. So, I'm all ears. He was dropping a lot of stuff that, because I was more on the militant tip at that time, even though I was studying, the shamanism, but I was fairly new to it, but I was mainly coming out of, how when you're young, you're a college student, you just ready to tear up the world, and so, so I took him up on that, and I went to the Gathering Master. He had everybody coming to the Gathering Master: Bobby Hemmett, Hakeem Bey, Nakeem Bey, you name it, just about everybody in the community that you can think of, And so at the lecture, I hear Hakeem Bey speak. And what blew me away about Hakeem is that Hakeem, at that time, it wasn't like now how you have the internet and stuff like that, at that time, you go to the lectures and you get a tape, you get a VHS tape.
That's right there. Yeah,
not even the DVD at that time. You either got a VHS tape or you got like this right here, a cassette tape. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cassette. This is a real cassette here. You got either a cassette or you got a VHS. No digital, analog. So and Hakeem came and he used to come with his slide projector. Before everything was digital, he had like a real slide projector where they would laminate pieces of paper, and it would be on a clear, transparent sheet. Yeah. And you put it down on this thing, and it projects an image on the wall. You know what I'm saying? So he would have his projector there, and he would show all of these images of these Moors and indigenous people and how they look just like what they call today African American, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Latin, stuff like that. And I was just blown away because I'm very visual, when it comes to learning and absorbing information. So I mean, that hit home for me because he had the visuals, and they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, Yeah. So I was like, man. So at that point, I was starting to take what these Moors are saying a little bit more serious, because before, I was like, these Moors are crazy, man. I was doing research to prove that the Moors were wrong in what they were saying. But the more that I researched, the more that I found out that the Moors were right on point with what they were saying, you see? And so I start to do more research, and I got nationalized through Hakeem Bey. And I also received his Moorish adept lessons, so I became exposed to, that adept wisdom of the Moorish science. And so, once I got those adept lessons, that was it, and I, like him, I started doing more research because at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of information like how we have today. You have so much information due to the internet and stuff like that. So, in its infant stage, I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of information back then, and I definitely got to, credit people like Hakeem Bey and also Jose Pimienta Bey as well, because I started getting tapes from Jose Pimienta Bey and studying his lectures and stuff like that. And, same thing with him. He always presented a lot of visuals and things of that nature in his lectures. And so at that point, I start to study because I'm also studying my indigenous culture, all the cultural aspects, the history and stuff like that, the spiritual aspect. And so I saw in the Moorish Science where, you know, they would say that the there's a connection between the 5 civilized tribes and the 5 types of Moors, the Als, the Ils, the Alis, the Bays, the Days, you know. So I'm like, let me look a little bit deeper into that. And there was another brother around that same time. They had a group called the Unknown Brothers, and they used to have a lecture series around that same time up in Brooklyn. And it was a brother named Colin, who was Dr. Gabriel, Dr. Gabriel. I might be butchering his name, Oyibo or something like that. I don't want to butcher his name. Gabriel Obio, but his son's name is Colin. And so it was him and Professor Simmons's son, and a brother named Mahir Il. And Professor Simmons' son, Reggie. And they used to have a lecture series, and they used to bring all kind of people through. C. Freeman L, Hakeem Bey, Dr. Delbert Blair, you know, all kind of people they used to bring there to do lectures. You know, I've sat with C. Freeman Ill in person, you know, bill with him, you know, like all night, you know, and stuff like that, pick his brain, you know.
That's a cosmic teacher right there.
Yes. Oh yeah. And so I start, and the brother Mahir El, who was also part of that group called the Unknown Brothers, he used to always rock a turban. And he used to always talk about the connection with the indigenous and the Moors as well. So that really resonated with me, you know, because, you know, that was, you know, my heritage that I was, you know, really studying up on, you know, and getting more deep into. And so, you know, his message definitely resonated with me very well. And so I kind of started studying even deeper than what he was doing, and studying the connections and seeing that, oh, well, so the Moors and the indigenous people are like one and the same people. That's what I find out through my research. Okay. Then, you know, I start finding out that, well, you know, there's Moors, there's tribes called, there's a whole bunch of different tribes that are called Moors. Then I find out that when you look at certain tribes, their traditional attire, their regalia looks just like the Moors over in the East. Okay. Certain tribes you see, they rock the fez. Certain tribes you see with the turban, just like over in the East. So I'm looking at all these connections. So I start, you know, just compiling all kind of information. I'm looking at, you know, and also I'm looking at tribes here called Mandinka. Like there's a tribe in Central America called the Mandinkas that are so old that they are classified as an indigenous tribe. Also in North America, there's also a tribe called the Mandinkas, you know. And I'm looking at all of these, you know, another tribe called Mecca, called the Mecca Indians, you know. And I'm looking at other tribes that, you know, have Kemetic elements in their language and stuff like that, you know. And just coming across all kind of information, you know. So I started to do a lot of writing. I started putting out journals, you know, and making those journals available to the public. I used to sell them. I used to vend out in Harlem back in the days. I still vend out in Harlem, you know, from time to time. you know, Ben did all the cultural events and, you know, Sonetta's events and stuff like that, you know. And so I get really, you know, I'm just like gung-ho about this whole Moorish thing. And now to go back to the spiritual aspect, when I was doing my research, I would go in the library and the ancestors would just leave me the books that just gave me all the answers that I was looking for, you know?
Yeah.
And then I would just meet people on the street that would just give me clues, you know, and everything would just fall in place, you know, by just meeting people, talking to people. I go to powwows, you know, meet family there and stuff like that, you know. And being that I was a book distributor as well, you know, I had in my possession thousands of books and, you know, metaphysical books. I used to be at the lectures with all the metaphysical books, you know. Even if you look at some old videos from like back in the 90s and stuff like that, you'll hear people referencing me in their lectures and stuff like that, and as the man in the back with the books, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So now, you know, I start studying, you know, to get a little bit, I know you wanted to know a little bit about my background.
Yes.
So, yeah, so basically, my background, I have a background definitely in, as I told you before, shamanism, you know, metaphysics, Rosicrucianism. I got a background in the Yoruba, Palo, and, you know, things of that nature. Just about all kind of the spiritual systems that you can think of. You know, I've been part of it. You know, and others too. You know, as well.
Right on. Yeah.
Let's see. Um, So you can pretty much say I'm basically a student of Moorish Science. You know, I have also been on the continent of Africa, doing on a fact-finding mission, doing research there. I lived there for, you know, a little while as well. So, you know, my knowledge is you know, it's pretty holistic, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I've got the knowledge from, you know, in terms of the indigenous side, as well as also the knowledge of, you know, the African history and stuff like that. You know, I'm pretty versed in that. Pretty versed in comedics. I used to take classes at the Set Society out here in Brooklyn. You know, Set Society, that's the society that Raul Nefer Amen, who wrote the books, the Medu Neter books and other books, you know, he had a group called the Set Society.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I used to go to their, you know, their rituals and stuff like that, take classes. They would have classes and things like that right out here in Brooklyn on Bedford Place back in the days, you know. I also have um, a family lineage of people who were um, medicine people, okay, in my lineage. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, and so, you know, basically, I've just been following up on all of, you know, that ancestral wisdom, you know. Um, and is anything, I know you had a couple of other things you wanted me to
Sure,
touch on as
sure, sure.
well.
And also to the people. So that's really an introduction of who Feerce Truth-Seeker is. Fierce, bro, you mentioned Jose Pimienta, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to share a shout out to, you know, our people that speak Spanish. So, para que usted lo sepa, porque Jose Pimienta era como era o todavía es también un personaje como muy importante porque él realmente hizo un trabajo enorme y enseñando a la gente, ¿entiendes? Todo sobre la cultura indígena, pero también quién eran los moros. So shout out to Jose Pimienta. So bro, right away, let's go, man.
You're pretty fluent. What country are you from?
Yo, you know what I'm saying? I live, in Canada, so
Oh, you're in Canaan land.
yeah, exactly. But my pedigree is from the island. You know what I'm saying? So
Which island?
speaking French, Creole. So
Nice,
shout
nice.
out to Haiti. I
I
got to shout
see.
out as well, to my people from the Dominican Republic, Cuba. So shout out to all of you. So yeah,
Nice.
French, Spanish. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah,
gonna go.
my family lineage is also from Latin America as well on my maternal side.
So you know what, bro? Share this with us, and talk about that history of your lineage from your mom's side.
Well, my mom's side is from the island of Saint Vincent.
Shout out to the people from St. Vincent. Yeah.
And as you know, a lot of people from St. Vincent, you had a lot of people who migrated from other parts. So some of my ancestors were people who came from Venezuela and also from Portugal as well on my mother's paternal side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
As well as we also have the Moorish element as well on her paternal lineage, and we also have the indigenous line on my great grandmother's side. On my grandmother's side, rather, we trace it through my great grandmother twice removed. And the people of that island, the original people of that island, were the Kalinago, Arawak, the people that you call Garifuna.
Yeah.
They originally came from St. Vincent, which is my other island. To my mother's island, and then they branched off to places like Honduras, and other places in Central America.
So that's what's up. So, hey,
so
brother.
Now, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So what's interesting when we talk about Moorish in terms of my mother's country, what's interesting about that is that her country, the Aboriginal name for that country is two names that the indigenous people gave to that island, Haruna and Urome.
Say that again, bro.
Haruna and Urome. Okay. And Haruna is a West African Islamic or Moorish name. So you see the Moorish connection there.
Mm-hmm.
You see? Yep.
Got you. And you spoke about, from your mom, Venezuela, and the lineage, Venezuela, all that area. So
because it's right there, right. It's a quick boat ride from that island, right off of South America. Yeah.
So, bro, I know people from that area actually. Any words or any? How would you, um, assist them, or now on the show, if the people wants to know more about the indigenous narratives, anyone's from the island specifically, could you share any tips or advices?
Sure. So in terms of the islands, so you have Haruna. You also have in Cuba, the early explorers there described that they found mosques You know, they found a mosque in Cuba, you know. And you also have certain places in the islands and in Central America where you have people who have Moorish names. Like, for instance, you have the people in Central America that speak languages that were found to be Islamic. Okay. You have, and then when you read in Jose Pimienta's book, Othello's Children in the New World, you know, he goes into detail, you know, about the different tribes that have Moorish Moorish elements in their language. Also, tribes with Moorish names, you know, like Marabut, you know. You also have, again, you have the Mandinkas, you know, in Central America. Columbus, when he first came to the Americas, he talked about how the Carib people, he said that they were Mohammedans. Okay. And you find in also people who were in on the mainland in North America who were brought to the islands, because a lot of people think that when they talk about the transatlantic slave trade, they just think about you know, the slave trade coming from, you know, Africa to the Caribbean to North America and things of that nature. But what they don't understand is that for the most part, our people were being traded intercontinentally throughout from the mainland to the Caribbean and vice versa, and also on the mainland, you know, the different states, as well as South Central America. You know, you also had it going on in South America. You know, even before any Africans even came here in a slave trade. You see, so you have, say, for instance, the Pequots in Connecticut, the Pequot tribe. There's plenty of documented evidence of the Pequots in the 1700s being taken into the island of Bermuda. Okay, and even till this day, there's a community in Bermuda who still preserved the oral history of their people originally coming to that island from North America, coming from Connecticut and Long Island. Okay, and I've actually done an interview with one particular brother who's from Bermuda, but he goes to the powwows. He goes to the Pequot's powwows every year, and he goes there in honor of his ancestors that were taken from there to Bermuda. You see, also a lot of people that are in Jamaica. You know, they have a lot of people in Jamaica. You know, they have the story about, you know, them being originally coming from Ghana. You know, blah blah blah. I'm not denying that you know, Ghanaians weren't brought to that island, but what's heavily overlooked is the fact that you had indigenous people from the mainland that were also being taken to that particular island. For instance, the Yamasee. Okay, the Yamasee indigenous people were who were in the South were being taken, and this is documented. You can look in the congressional records. This is documented that they were being taken from the mainland in the South to Jamaica.
Right.
And same thing with IET. You know, they were indigenous people from the mainland being taken to IIT as well. Matter of fact, I grew up and went to high school with a brother who was part Dominican and part Haitian, and he said his mother was Cherokee, but she was born in IET.
So
Yep.
for the people, so these are examples. You know, that's the we gotta say that's the du jour, the true matters, or how indigenous people on this continent were actually traveling, off south to west, east. But these has been supplanted, by we got to say, part of them fictional, narratives to, to hide the truth. So then again, bro, could you probably give like another example, or in, indigenous people who were from this part of the continent, bam, they moved to another place.
Yeah. Um, there was an individual. Um, he had come to one of the powwows. I can't remember. It might have even been the Yamasee powwows. One of the southern powwows that he went to, and he was he took a DNA test, and he found relatives that were from North America that had. He was from, I think he was from Trinidad, and he found relatives in his DNA. When you do DNA, they also allow you to see who you're related to DNA wise.
Yeah.
He had DNA relatives that were from North America that had no Caribbean lineage whatsoever, and he was from Trinidad.
Mhm.
You know, yeah.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So I'm glad that you're sharing this to the people because this has to be shared and has to be known, by
Mhm.
a
I
lot
mean,
of
we can also do a part two when I have my notes in front of me, and I can go even deeper into more islands.
no, no doubt, man. No doubt we will. So we're gonna make now a switch. So brother Fierce mentioned shamanism. So we're gonna explore this. So bro, I know what you're allowed to disclose, so involving, spirits, shamanism. Please share it to the people. All right.
Okay. I will do like I told you before. I'll do a surface, a surface introduction, because again, when you're initiated into certain systems, obviously the secrets you can't talk about, but it can give it can give a general background that'll be enough to, spark your interest. Um, yeah, so basically, um, the shamanism. Well, you got to remember when the colonizers first came here, how did they take possession of the land? And a lot of people, they'll say, oh, well, they went to war and, this, that, and the other. Okay. Yeah, that's part of it, but that's not, that's only a piece of it. How did they actually possess the land? So what they had to do, they had to consult with the shamans. Okay. So when they consulted with the shamans, then it was the shamans who told them about the layout of the land. Okay. So when they came here, they had to learn about where the power points are. Because the earth, just like the human body, has chakras
Gotcha.
and meridians. Okay. So if you learn how to manipulate those power points, or like in martial arts, the pressure points, you know, you can cause things to happen. Okay, so they had to learn where the sacred places were, the sacred places of power. Okay, so what they did was, when they consulted with the shamans, they learned about occupy, like, certain places or power points. So you have Washington D.C., a major power point, a major grid point. Okay, why do you think they occupy there? You know, if you occupy certain places, you're gonna be forever in power. You know, well, nothing lasts forever, you know, but you know, you can be in power for a long, because you know, once you start abusing the power, you know, you could do all the juju, all the you know, all the medicine that you want, but you begin to play yourself, and you know, the ancestors will allow you just enough rope to hang yourself, you know, no matter how much occult wisdom you've got. But you know, so far, you know, they've been able to maintain by occupying certain places. You know, Washington D.C., you know, that whole thing is laid out. You know, if you see DC from an aerial view, you're gonna see all kind of symbolism. You know, you're gonna see the square, the compasses, you know, you're gonna see the pentagram, you know, and all of that stuff, you know, pentagram, you know, you see the you know, they have the obelisk, you know, all of these things are used to harness energy so that they could continue to rule. You see what I'm saying? So they learned where all these sacred, like where you see these cathedrals and stuff like that, you know, those are power points. You know, when you go into certain churches and they're working all kind of miracles and stuff like that, they're on power points.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So of course, you know, you see a lot of miraculous stuff in some churches and things like that. They're thinking, oh, it's the Lord Jesus. Oh, Lord, you know, oh, Lord, come and bring me that bottle of oil and say the name of Jesus. And you're going to see the mighty hand of God do miracles. And what they don't understand is that, you know, they're using, you know, a lot of them understand these sciences, you know, and they're working the land.
Yep.
They're working the PowerPoints, you know, not to mention that, you know, a lot of them, you know, also, you know, don't think that a lot of them don't understand the occult sciences, like, you know, root work and things like that, you know, hoodoo and, you know, stuff like that. Don't think that they don't know all that stuff, you know.
Right.
So yeah, they had to occupy, they had to get with the shamans, find out the lay of the land, you know. You have places all over the country, even, you know, where you have mounds that are known, you know, people who've been on the mounds talk about having all kind of spiritual experiences and stuff like that, you know. So yeah, sacred places, you wanted to know about sacred places, you know, of course, here in New York, you have places like where you see a lot of spiritual, like in the Bronx, in Soundview Park, you know. When I was a drum, because I used to do Native American drumming and sing. I used to be drum with a group called Iron Feather. My cousin and my godmother started that drum group called Iron Feather that was known, you know, through the local powwows, you know, in the tri-state area. So we used to practice in Soundview Park in the Bronx, you know, and we would have people talk about how, you know, there's spirits, you know, in that park, you know, because in Soundview, that was originally called Sacapins, okay, by the indigenous people there, you know. So these are, you know, sacred places where some of these parks and stuff are located. Of course, in Long Island, you know, a lot of power up there, you know. Of course, Amityville, you know, that movie, the Amityville Horror, you know, that was based on a true story, you know, because a lot of these um, suburbs and places where all these rich folk are at, you know, these are on burial grounds, indigenous burial grounds. You see what I'm saying? You know, so, you know, a lot of times these spirits get mad and they just, you know, start going buck wild on these people, you know, for occupying their land, you
Wow.
know. So there's a lot of sacred, there's other sacred places too. Some sacred places I won't talk about. Just for the fact that, you know, when you tell too many people, you know, about certain places, you know, that's when it becomes desecrated, you know. So some spots I just, you know, will choose not to talk about, you know.
I got you. And bro, so New York territory. So a lot of people knows or comes to the knowledge about Montauk. What's been over there. There's another place too. Allow me to share it to you. So that one here, it's the
Right, the Montauk, yeah,
yeah,
Montauk.
we have the Roundax Mountain. So I've been able to. I'm gonna share it. Do some remote viewing over there. So
Hmm,
I know personally that any major mountains, there's activities inside and below. And you mentioned power points or energy grid. So New York stands or below New York is a major vortex point.
hmm.
So for the people that's really in the know, brother Fierce, would you be able to tell them if there's any wells for people to go to cleanse? But that's really, on the knowledge or, you know, water pounds, that people can go and cleanse or, ask whatever that they want or, you know what I'm saying? Or parks where they can, speak with the spirits, technically. So,
Yeah, in terms of here where here in New York, uh, I don't know of any wells here.
or it
Uh,
could be any natural, settings or environment.
yeah, well, basically, really, to be totally honest with you, um, just getting out into a forest or a place where you have a lot of trees, particularly like your old trees. Um, any place in nature like that, we have old trees. You know, you can go and you can sit under those trees. You can take your hands and you can put your hands on those trees or hug the trees. You know, and you can get um, certain energy and healing from those trees, you know, just by hugging trees. You know, you got some people who just go around, you know, and they put their hands on trees and they just hug all different kind of trees because different types of trees have different types of medicine. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, you go into your local area and, you know, because obviously, you know, everybody who's on here now is not in New York. But, you know, go into your own local area and find trees. Also, do your research on what type of trees are in that area. Go to your, go to your library and do some research and find out what kind of trees there. And then once you find out what kind of trees there, you find out, what type of medicine those trees. When I say medicine, I'm talking about, you know, from a spiritual aspect. You know,
Right,
what type of spiritual healing or what type of spiritual benefits you can get from those different types of trees.
right. And brother, so we're coming, yeah, to an hour. So two quick questions while we're chatting. So you mentioned medicines. Would you be able to share it to the people? Because just to let you know, the audience, that's really people that's in the know, you know. So the power source was the galactic, talk. So talking about, cosmic technologies, mysteries on Earth. So would you be able to share you know, you talk about medicines, right, on a
Mhm.
spiritual level. Can you share what's you're allowed to disclose, things so that people could, search more or even, study regarding this?
Right. Well, you know, indigenous people had all kind of herbs and plants that they used to use for a myriad of different things. Um, People used herbs like well, say for instance, herbs for aphrodisiacs, stuff like that, stuff like uh, uh, ginseng. Um, they used to use other herbs for healing, like where my father's from the South, you know, and a lot of people back then used to use like sassafras, you know, for different things. Um, People would use uh, um, dogwood, um, wild cherry bark, um, rattlesnake, and castor concoctions, pennyroyal. Um, and they would use a whole lot of other things and of course for certain types of um uh, uh, uh juju. A lot of people would use things like High John the Conqueror, you know um for different types of medicine.
Yeah.
Because now you're talking about, people use different herbs to make what they call gree bags and
Mhm.
things like that. Now you're talking about like the hoodoo tradition in the South. In
Yeah.
the South they have see what a lot of people um, down south they'll say, somebody put a root on you, you know, and things like that. So you have your root workers, people who do conjure, and things of that nature. And people think that those are like African survivals, but those are actually indigenous survivals. There is an African element to it, but by and large, those are indigenous. Um, those are indigenous practices. Let me give you an example.
Good.
Uh, because what you call conjure, root work, and hoodoo among the southern quote unquote Negroes, this was actually um, practices from the different tribes in the South. Like, for instance, the Cherokees. Okay, the Cherokees were the conjure. You can trace that back to the Cherokees because the Cherokees were big into conjure. Okay, um, and the group of the Cherokees, they had an ancient magical priestly branch of the Cherokees called the Anikutani. Okay, and they were master conjurers.
Mhm.
Okay, um, and they would um, they would do all kind of magic and stuff like that, stuff that you associate with Southern root working.
Right.
You see, um, and so you know, um, what they call the stuff with the gree bags and putting different medicines in the bags and stuff like that. That's indigenous.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man.
That's indigenous. And what a lot of people don't know is that the when it comes to magic, I don't care where you go in the world, there was no magic that was higher than the magic that was practiced here in the Americas. Okay, even what you call like in the Caribbean, you know, when you talk about like Obeah, you know, in different Caribbean islands, you know, some islands they have the Shango Baptist, or in IT, you know, you have Voodoo, you know, 21 divisions and stuff like that. So now with Voodoo, what you got to remember is that Voodoo is not all African. Okay, you did have certain lines that were African, but you also had other lines that were Arawak. Okay, like for instance, you had the the symbols that the people that you see them drawing with the efun on the ground, and they draw those, you know, things that are like sigils and things like that. That's Arawak. The Vives, that's Arawak. Okay, for the then there is some of it is African, but most of the Vives are Arawak.
No doubt. Yep, no doubt.
And also, you know, they have certain lines that are Arawak as well. You know, in Voodoo, they have different rites. You know, and some of those rites that they have are definitely Arawak. Um, and also, your screen is frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you well, bro.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Actually, I'm looking at my screen. My screen is frozen, and your screen is frozen. But you can hear me though.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah. So you know, I know we're running into. We can do a. You know, we can always do a follow up. You know, I can go into more detail.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, we can, you know, get into some more of those aspects of indigenous occultism and stuff like that.
Sure. So to the people, we definitely gonna do a second part to it, just like Brother Feerce just mentioned. The you know, the American indigenous occultism, right? So this, like I say, based on personal experience, you know, past lives, that things I can say to a fact that I've been singing this, you know, as a Lemurian. So this goes back, and the continent of America has a lot of secrets, bro. Uh, you know, shaman practices, initiations. You go to, you know, mystical events probably a few times, dozen times, you know, in a day, on a weekly basis. Would you be able to share to the people one particular mystical or metaphysical event that had a major shift or call to your life on this plane?
Um, I would say basically a major shift. Um, Talking about from a spiritual perspective.
Oh, sure, no doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basically, you know, what what I was telling you earlier, in regards to um, when we were doing the indigenous um, lectures and stuff like that, and events. Um, those had a pretty as they say, those were turning points for me, especially when the brother told me that we brought down those ancestral spirits. You know, that you know kind of bugged me out. You know, not in a bad way. You know, but later on, I learned that you know he was right on point with that, because I would, when I be doing my research, you know, I'd just be led to information, you know, that would just pop up out of nowhere, you know, in different places, you know. So those were definitely points in my life that definitely shifted and confirmed for me to be on this path.
Mm-hmm. And when you're recalling this particular event, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you felt on a spiritual level? You know, when
Oh, man.
they told you that.
You know, it felt for me, um, it was a check in my spirit, you know, because again, you know, I was already going on that path. So, you know, it just gave me that extra oomph that I needed, you know, to continue.
Mm-hmm.
And I never turned back.
That's right, man. That's right.
Never
So
turned back after that.
thank you, bro, Priest, for sharing this. Um, I'm gonna allow one question actually, from
Oh,
a brother that's online because I know now it's 1 a.m. So, brother,
yeah.
Hamza, if you have, if you do want, you know, to take the mic on and share your questions to brother Fierce, please go ahead, brother.
Islam, brother, you know what I'm saying? We
Islam.
just want to say Islam today, I still, you know, because you really give us the good connection back to the, you know, back to the ancestral vibe over here, you know. And me and him was speaking a little bit before you come on, and some of the things we were speaking is almost the same thing that you were expounding on. You know what I mean? So we really give thanks. We don't really have a question. I mean, the day I listen and I say, well, I want to ask my intelligent question, you know?
Yeah.
But we just take in the knowledge right now and just match it with where when we know. And we say, you know, we just give thanks for the I really bring out that. And, you know what I'm saying? You might come and do a part two.
Yes.
That would agree it. That would agree it, you know, especially when you were explaining about how they were transporting the people all across this side. From,
Yep.
you know what I mean? From the mainland to the islands, from the islands to the mainland.
Exactly.
That's one set of people.
Exactly. One set
You know
of
what I mean? And go ahead, brother, please.
Yeah, because to give you another example, like for instance, so we talk about the Yamasee, how a lot of the Yamasee being brought to Jamaica, right? So now
and call them maroon too when they brought them there. Because they said the maroons were in Florida too, right?
That's right. That's right. Florida, Georgia.
That's right. But they were the Yamasee, maroon, same people.
The same people. That's right. Because now check this out. So the Yamasee, right? So you familiar with the Gullah and the Geechee people?
To a little degree, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
yes,
now,
yes.
The Gullah and the Geechee people. So you know, we know that there is an element of the Gullah and Geechee who talk about, you know, coming from Africa, you know, things like that. I don't deny that. But what is overlooked in regards to the Gullah and Geechee is the fact that also the Yamasee Indians say that the Gullahs are Yamasees.
You see it.
You see,
and then like they're up in Belize, I think, too, some of them, right? And they were saying like they said some of their ancestry came from down where you were saying, Venezuela and these from the southernmost part of the mainland. Because there's a southern mainland and a northern mainland. Right. And they were coming like in you know, in previous time, pre-Columbian times, people were back and forth.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that aspect in terms of you said coming from Belize.
Yeah, because I was watching something about the Gullah people, and they were it was in Belize, and they were making reference to them.
Wow.
And
Okay.
some of the other islands, right? And then they were talking about the ancestry of those people, and they said those people were coming from South America, like how you were explaining earlier, how they came up from, you know, from near Venezuela. You said it was only a boat ride away and these things, right?
Right.
Right. So that's what I was. Yeah. So like you were saying, it was the same people.
Right. Yeah, I was talking about my mother's island, in terms
St.
of
Vincent.
Venezuela. Yeah, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
See,
so that's just, you know, that's just right there, you know, South America's.
right. But remember, even you said earlier how they left from that island and we're going to different places all around. Right. So that could be how they reached up to Belize and these places, right? And Honduras and all this, you know.
The Garifuna, they call them the Garifuna. See it. Yeah, if you look, do a Google search on the Garifuna. They spell it Garifuna.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man. For real, because that I think those are the one I was referring, actually, to be correct myself. I think those are the ones that I meant when I was talking about Belize. Right. Yeah. But speaking of like what you're saying, because I played in a music band with a lot of Dominicans, not from Dominic, like from Dominica.
Oh, Dominica. Yeah,
Dominica, St. Lucia, and these places, and they were looking at themselves like they're Caribs.
Okay, right.
They, you know, and you know, so they don't really have that slave history, like how you're saying. Like, you know what I mean? They look at themselves like they're from there.
That's true.
And even when you go see the old pictures, they got on the, you know, they're making the treaties and stuff, right? They got on their turban and all that. It's right there. It's undeniable.
Yeah, it's undeniable. That's right.
You know, it's undeniable.
Oh yeah. So now with the Gullah, so now check this out. So the Gullah and the Geechee, if you look at so the Yamasee say that, you know, the Gullah and Geechee and the Yamasee and Seminoles are like all family people. You see what I'm saying? Also, so if that be the case, you look at those people, like for instance, if you take a Gullah, someone from the Gullah and Geechee Nation, and you put them in a Caribbean setting, you couldn't really tell them apart if you hear them speaking, unless you really, you know what I'm saying? For the most part, you really can't really distinguish, you know, just on the surface. Yeah.
There's a lot of people hear St. Vincent people talking and they swear they're Jamaican, right?
From different,
you know what I mean? Because if they don't know, but like you're saying, yeah, you know, exactly what you're saying.
Well, right now I'm talking about the Gullah and the Geechee in
true.
In the South, in Georgia and
Florida, Georgia, Southern Georgia. I want to ask you a question about that area though. You know how like up here, we're up in Canaan Line up here, right?
Oh, yeah, Canaan Land. Okay.
Yeah, I'm up in Canaan Land, brother. I'm up in
I got family there too. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah, man. I'm up in near territory of Ottawa.
Okay.
Ottawa, Gatineau, right, not too far from Toronto, near Montreal, right in that region there. That's where I'm at, you know. So there's a Algonquin up here. Up here, it's a Algonquin.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Even the Parliament building up here, it's on unceded. It's not a secret. It's on unceded Algonquin land still. Like the government don't really own that. It's a perpetual lease or whatever, right? Okay. But just coming across research over the years, there's a lot of, you know, Algonquin's a language that went all the way down into southern Florida. And even I've seen pictures that they're showing Algonquin, but down in southern Florida, like the dark skin looking, not looking like the ones we see up here, looking like us, right? So I'm just wondering if you have any more knowledge about the Algonquin language or so-called Indians in the southern part. You're down in, like, you know, Florida, those kind of places.
Okay. Well, now in Florida, that was originally the Timucuas, as well as, now you also in Florida, you also had Arawaks.
Okay.
Florida as well. Not only that, but the Arawaks, I've even seen certain documents saying that the Arawaks were as far into the mainland as the Carolinas.
See.
You know, and I have, you know, when we do the next lecture with the brother Taino AG, I'll pull those documents on the Arawaks here, you know, in Florida, and going down the East Coast. In terms of languages, and the people in the North and people in the South, well, you know, the Cherokees were originally a part of that. They were actually a part of the Mohawks.
Okay.
That Iroquois Confederacy.
Yeah.
You know,
of course. We have that up here. Like we're right at the border there, Cornwall and all that. That's all, you know, Mohawk.
Right. But they split. You know, at a point, you know, they had a division and they started to split.
And it's crazy, like up here, like if you look at we always say it, you know, we have the Mohawk flag. That's a staple up here, right? We're in where we are, and you know, it's a brother. That's a brother on that flag.
Thank you.
In terms of complexion.
Yep. If you look right on there, that's a brown skin, like me and your complexion.
Straight up. They don't look like none of the, you know, it's funny thing. One time I ran into this, I was in a line somewhere and they were calling by name and they wanted the name or whatever. So I used my nationality card, whatever, L, right? Okay. And then they called this native woman and she turned to me and she goes, "You're L? I'm L too." She was from Inuit, from up Inuk, from up north. And she was an L too. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she says, "Man, my grandfather's darker than you." And I remember that day, it blew me away because I'm an L. Yeah, indigenous. I was like, for real. Like, I was, you know, like, but it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's connection, funny, you know?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because in, like I mentioned earlier, Jose Pimienta Bay's book.
Yes. Othello and the New
Children in the New World.
Yes.
He talks about how, you know, they had an ill clan up there. With the I think he said with the Senecas. Yeah, they had an ill clan.
Okay.
See?
Yeah, so you know, like I always tell them,
that's along the lines of, you know, the person that you met up there.
For real, you know. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I always tell them, like, if you're up here where we are in Canaanland, and me and you leave same time, and I'm going to Vancouver, so-called, and we're going to the islands. I'm going to get to the islands before you get to Vancouver. But yet you're going to say that I went somewhere different and you're in the same place just because you're going latitudinal, right?
Exactly.
That's fiction.
Exactly.
We're in the same place.
True.
The same way you can say we're in Vancouver, it's the same way just because if I'm indigenous in the islands, I'm indigenous anywhere I go, for Earth for that matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like up here, they only recognize, you know, or they say they only recognize, not that we need them to recognize us, obviously, right? Exactly. But they say they only recognize the Inuit, the Native, so-called First Nation people, and the Métis, right? But we're indigenous to the Americas. That's a fact.
That's a fact.
So anywhere we are. So like that's our premise. Like this, we're here in our land. We're in America. We're not have to argue with you about it. There's not even debate. About it. You know, I'm Aboriginal, Indigenous, Moor, period.
That's it.
Yeah, man.
We are, you know, nobody has superior claim to us, you know.
That's it.
Whether it be those of us who are indigenous from the land, or whether it be those Africans that came over here in trade ships. You know, when you talk about the Malian expeditions, you know, under Abubakari and Mansa Musa, you know, all of those people were here before anybody else was here, whether it be those
for real.
homegrown or those who came, you know, you had those who came later, you know, and they are as well here before anybody else, except for us who are, you know, homegrown, of course.
Yeah, man, for real, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, I love the work you Moors are doing, man. Islam, give so much thanks, and you know, 12 o'clock at night is word, and I stay up, and I'm very glad that I was able to, to
Likewise,
partake,
man.
Yeah, man.
Likewise. And
Blessed love, protection.
I like the work that y'all are doing up there in Canaan land too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you should travel up here sometime.
Sure.
And you hook up with Grand Chief Cujo, maybe AGL. I think we're all gonna be up here in August.
Okay.
In Montreal next month.
Anytime, man.
I don't know if it's a secret, but I'm busting it. So if you're, come on.
Okay, anytime.
We'd love to have you, brother. Like, we love Moors, man. We love active Moors. And it is what it is, Noble Drew Ali, he's the man.
Oh yeah.
Islam.
Oh, yeah. Islam. Peace.
Thank you, brother Alfonso. So that was a good, session of building.
Oh yeah.
Like we were saying. So
yeah.
So brother Feerce, we're coming to an end. So I just want to say to the people, I came to the knowledge of brother Feerce works actually through Toriano.
That's my boy.
Toriano was on, brother Feerce talk show. It's called the Red Rose East. That's at the moment, and that was around 2018. So peace to you, because I know that show here you're promoting the indigenous holiness. So would you mind of taking a minute of sharing this to the people?
Sure. Yeah. So the Red Road East is my television program. It's comes on BronxNet, which is the public access TV show in the Bronx. And I've been doing that show since 2015. Again, now before I had the Red Road East, I've been on YouTube long before the Red Road East. But basically, the Red Road East is indigenous, and I'm using that term loosely, of course. I'm just using it loosely for clarity's sake for all the viewers. Indigenous television program dedicated to archiving and preserving the history, legacy, and culture of the original peoples of the Americas, particularly the East Coast and the Caribbean. Okay. And before I had the Red Road East show, I had a series. Well, I had a research team called the American Mound Builders Research Team. Now we're talking at the beginning of the 2000s. This is long before any Aboriginal movement or anything like that you have today. We're talking like early 2000s, like 2006, 2007, and I had a series called Black Indians Debunked. And it, really had a lot of, it got a lot of play on YouTube. A lot of those videos are not even on YouTube anymore. I don't know what happened to the videos. I guess the information was too powerful at the time. They took a lot of videos down. Matter of fact, I just came across one video that somebody reposted, one of the old videos from like 2006 or 2007, one of the old videos, somebody reposted it. And if it wasn't for that repost, I would never even, because I don't even have a copy. A lot of that stuff is just gone, but you can still find you can still find some of the old videos if you go to American Mound Builders Research Team. You can look that up on YouTube and you'll find some of those old videos. Just look for Black Indians Debunked, any of those buzzwords, and you'll find some of those videos. But yes, I'm also a Washita. I got nationalized through the Washitas back in the days. I did lectures with the Washita here in New York, in different places and stuff like that. And Yeah, I'm pretty much one of the pioneers of what you call the Aboriginal movement today. You know, talking about long before Dane Calloway or any of those guys. I'm one of the pioneers. Matter of fact, when I first started doing this whole thing with the Moorish and Native connection and stuff like that, it was only like maybe, again, now, you know, there was always individuals who had this information, but we're talking about like as a paradigm is what I'm talking about. You know, there's only like a couple of other people who were doing it when I first started. You know, it's a brother named Robert Strong Rivers. He was doing it like around the same time when I was doing it. You know, I had become aware of his work. You know, later. You know, I was already, you know, doing that stuff locally in the community and stuff like that. You know, and later on, somebody said, "Oh, there's somebody else, you know, on the, you know, say on the West Coast. I think he was on the West Coast, say, and he's doing the same thing you're doing." I was like, "Oh, really? Wow!" And you know, I looked him up, and you know, sure enough, you know, but yeah, wasn't a whole lot. You know, of course, you know, always had Moors, you know, who were touching on the subject. But I'm talking about like going in like really deep and, you know, with the connection and stuff like that. Wasn't too many other people doing it when I was doing it.
Got you. So, yeah. Thank you, brother. First, so we're gonna have a second part actually.
Okay, that sounds good.
You know, some informations for our people. You know, with the with families, South America, the islands. You know, so we do want to check this because good information for the people, and we're going to tackle as well. You know, some magic because brother first mentioned that, you know, part of his family from his father's side, they're from the south, so we do going to tackle this, you know, more into
Okay.
so brother Feerce, man, I appreciate, man, the time that you took, you know what I mean.
Likewise, man.
You know what you had to go through, but I'm glad actually, you know,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
looking up, you know, and building. So
Definitely. I tried my best. I was bobbing and weaving through traffic, you know, you know, bobbing, you know, just trying to make it, man, trying to get here. It's not easy in New York, man. It's 10 hours, you know.
Yeah, man. Blessed love, give thanks, Bridget, you know. So blessed love again.
Likewise, brother.
you know, so we had brother Feerce today's session 20, and just to let you know, it's 1 a.m. in 30. So, you know, whenever it's time to build, you know, with some, you know, other Moors, you know, prepping the indigenous paradigm, you know, that's quite important. And no matter what it's the time. So thank you, brother. We appreciate this, man.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you to the other brother. What's the other brother's name on the line?
Islam, Alfonso Jamorel.
Alfonso Jamorel. Yo, nice to meet you, brother. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man, for real. Give a thanks, man. Bless. See the eye again, you know.
Thanks. Likewise. Islam.
Again, brother Feerce Truth-Seeker. Bro, I'll let you the last word. Any things that you would want to share in this session, especially in these times, whether it's, you know, metaphysical, spiritual. Let's go ahead, bro.
Yeah, in terms of metaphysical and spiritual, I say it's really good to connect with your ancestors. You know, whether that be, you know, you're doing meditation, you know, in silence. You know, get yourself you can get yourself a candle, like a purple candle. You know, be in silence. You know, and just talk to your ancestors. You know. You know, also, you know, there's certain, you know, certain things that people can do in terms of, you know, learning about talismans, you know, and things of that nature that you can keep on your person, you know, to protect you.
Yeah.
Talismans, also, you know, burn ancestral money. You know, learn about ancestral money. That's real good for connecting with your ancestors. You know, we could talk about that another time. You know, But just start making that connection. Yeah. Go out in nature. Definitely go out in nature. You know, talk to the plants, talk to the trees. You know, keep plants in your house. You know, a lot of things you can do. You know, learn about words of power. You know, things of that nature. You know, we can get into that another time as well. You know.
No doubt, no doubt. So then again, brother Feerce Truth-Seeker in the building. So thank you, brother.
Hey, all right, guys. I thank you for having me on the show. You know, and
Honor, bro.
we made it happen.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, definitely. So I say, you know, to be continued.
Right on.